Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand. Jessop's Journal is a collection of powerful, positive, and inspirational stories. It's time for Jessop's Journal.
Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal, where we share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories and music right here on TV, as well as worldwide at jessopsjournal.com. First up is a real-life treasure hunter.
My job is to find these objects that are often in poor condition, in obscure places where they are not understood or treated well. And it's my job to pull them out of that obscurity, to restore them, to imbue them with the dignity that they deserve.
Phil White has a positive message about being behind the scenes on a movie set.
Hot set is when everything is configured for a certain shot, and basically it's taped off. Don't touch anything, nothing can be moved.
We open up the vault for some of my inspirational stories called The Caring Stories.
Circles is this great initiative that matches families in poverty with friends who help to cheerlead them on their journey out of poverty.
In between, Tamino entertains us.
When you look up to the sky, to me, they don't seem to appear.
Don't forget, objects with stories are treasures remembered.
Pull out these supports and you lower it down and wow, color. Here we have a man looking like a gardener standing in front of a woman who's on her knees.
But first, Micah Christensen. Micah, thanks for having us come to your fine establishment here.
Thank you, thrilled to be here.
So now, I've been around this building for a long time. It's been around for a long time. It was like an old Baptist church. Mm-hmm. What is it now?
It's now Anthony's Fine Art and Antiques, and we've been here since 1994. So, God, how many decades is that? That's 3 decades. It's about a 130-year-old building. It's been a church, it's been a bank, a rehearsal hall for the symphony. It's been a lot of things.
So when you say fine arts and antiques, okay, now this place is like wall-to-wall packed with all kinds of really cool stuff.
That's right.
What's your role?
The business was started by my father, Anthony Christensen, and together with him and my brother-in-law, Brett Levitri, we manage it. And it's 25,000 square feet with probably 10 to 15,000 items that range from ancient times until more recently. My job is mainly acquiring things and educating people on them.
So you're the treasure hunter.
I am the treasure hunter.
Ooh,
that's
fun.
a good way. I like that. I
want to come with you sometime. So, well, I guess that does beg the question. I mean, because there's stuff from everywhere. And,
yes.
You know, there's paintings, there's, these statues, there's, like this, I guess it's a fresco, I'm not sure exactly.
It's a tile painting made on it was made in Portugal in the 1500s, and it's a allegorical scene. Right behind the sculpture you have 2 figures holding hands, peace and justice, who are holding hands over the flame of truth.
How the heck do you find this?
We're constantly looking for things. So we've traveled back and forth between here and Europe for decades and establishing networks, contacts, who are regularly sending things to us. We also travel there. Before the pandemic, I was going back 2-3 times a year, traveling throughout Europe. That's just starting up again. And things come through the door. It's funny, the things that come through the door. Salt Lake's an international place. We have a joke here that anything made by God or man has come through our door. We had everything from Ptolemaic Egyptian sarcophagi that have come through the door to Ming meteorites to emperor's furniture. Wow. I mean, there's only one thing that really is the defining characteristic, and that's that we like it. Not everything that comes in here is in the best of condition, and that's just true of things that are older, right? Every 50 to 100 years, things need to be worked on. And this tile wall panel, and it's 4 different panels, had a lot of cracks in it, some paint loss. That's Those are earthenware tiles that have blue and white, and the blue is cobalt and the white is lead or tin, probably lead. And we needed to hire an artisan to fill in the cracks and repaint, just small, almost microscopic sections. So a big part of our job is knowing where the people are who can fix things. So we have everything from people who work with the Getty in California, to paper restorers in New York and in Europe, to tile painters here and in Chicago. It just depends on the piece. Every piece has its requirement.
I could pick something up and going, okay, yeah, that's nice. But how do you find out that this is really what people say it is, and you know that it actually is a value?
So I did my master's at Sotheby's in London and my PhD at University College London. And the first part of that at Sotheby's was, it was a school that was founded to train people to work in the auction world. And this is really, Sotheby's is one of the two major auction houses of the world. It was founded in the 18th century, and along with Christie's. And the people who taught me had decades of experience in handling objects that were from around the world, and who they expected of us at the end of this course that we had taken to hand us any kind of object and for us to be able to say where it was from, how it was made, what it was made out of, and to be able to do it with some accuracy. It was what we called an object-oriented education. One of my favorite teachers, Gordon Lang, who was one of the founders of the Antique Roadshow. He was an expert in ceramics, and he had what he called the Black Museum, which was a group of objects that were forged ceramics. And he would bring us into class, and he would have 3 or 4 real Ming pots and one that wasn't. And we'd have to tell him at the end of a course which one was and which one wasn't. And I don't know if I could have at that time been as accurate as I am now. And even now, I mean, you're constantly learning.
Right.
I probably see, either online or in person, 3,000 or 4,000 objects a week.
Whoa. And
I am constantly learning. It's a business that feeds your curiosity, and it's very rewarding on that level.
I bet. Now,
and humbling.
Dr. Micah Christensen, how do you want to leave your mark?
I think as a steward. I'll be a footnote, even if that, in the story of some of these objects. My job is to find these objects that are often in poor condition, in obscure places where they are not understood or treated well. And it's my job to pull them out of that obscurity, to restore them, to imbue them with the dignity that they deserve, and then to make sure that they are then put in a place where they're treated with the dignity that they deserve. So whether that's a museum, whether that's a private collector who understands and can pass it on to the next generation, our time on this earth is very short. And many of these objects that we're surrounded with will far outlast who I am or this place. And my job is to just make sure they get beyond us a little ways.
One of my favorite inspirational quotes is from Audrey Hepburn. She said, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." Everyone has a story, and sometimes those stories are told through music. It's time for Jessop's Jukebox with Tamino.
they don't seem to appear. And I didn't cry for that flamingo stuck in salt. Didn't care for it at all, while you couldn't hold your tears. Your fascination's always fascinated me. You make it harder to believe that I was ever really here. I try not to understand, just try not to understand. For I've seen enough to know where I belong, and you can't prove me wrong. No. Those modest sayings that mean so much to you, with me, they've never gotten through. I've always needed bigger words, but none of your colors can be found within the lines of the pages I made mine. And the more we drift apart, the more they start to blur. I try not to understand, just try not to understand. I've seen enough to know where I belong, and that you prove me wrong. When I recall all the nights that we have lost, waking in your love, I cry,
Since we're talking about movies and music, I figured this hat would be appropriate. It's called The Boater. Okay, remember the Music Man? Over the years, I've been able to do a lot of stories with ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Those stories deserve to be told, so I'm opening up the vault to what I call the caring stories. Even though Utah has one of the lowest poverty rates in the country, did you know that we're still talking about nearly 300,000 people?
Circles is this great initiative that matches families in poverty with friends who help to cheerlead them on their journey out of poverty.
The 8 circle groups in Utah
2 hands.
are building communities to fight poverty.
About 6 years ago,
We met single dad Justin.
my childhood was tough. My grandmother raised me. My mom passed away when I was about 2 years old. So being in poverty, I always been labeled as that. Right now is the time for me to try to get out of it. That's why I'm in this program, to get my daughter and myself to another level.
Ask yourself this question. If you lost your job tomorrow,
Can I have some strawberries, please?
how long could you pay your bills?
I was only homeless once and I ended up losing my house. I lost my job. I wasn't able to pay for my bills and stuff and went to the shelter for a while. I stayed at the Salt Lake shelter and the Midvale shelter.
Everybody needs a circle of friends to listen to them.
We talk, we laugh, we eat together, we become friends.
Not to fix them, change them, or heal them.
I don't think about it as teaching life skills really at all.
Last time I attended school, I was in 8th grade. So I have
Just
all those years
listen.
that I'm supposed to make up.
Somebody that cares. These people care. They see what's going on out there. I see the heart, you know.
One thing that they help me do is see that there's people out there that care, and they help me with feeling more confident that I can do this.
Together we can triumph over our trials.
These stories deserve to be told. These are the caring stories.
Ever wonder what goes on behind the camera? Well, Phil White gives us a look. Phil, thanks for coming on today.
Oh, my pleasure, Doug.
Now, I have to admit, I looked on LinkedIn, and that's where we connected, and we share, a little special thing. You want to tell people what it is?
Rio Honda College in Whittier, California.
You grew up about the same time I did.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's Whittier Boulevard and all that kind of stuff. For the people that don't know Whittier Boulevard, that is the place for
Cruising. Friday night, Saturday night cruising.
There you go. What was it like growing up in Whittier for you?
As a small child, I was interested in mini bikes, tearing apart lawnmowers, had my model cars. So that kind of stemmed my interest as far as automotive. Drag racing was my favorite. I've driven a Super Comp dragster at the Frank Hawley Drag Racing School.
Wow.
At Pomona, California.
How fast are you going in one of those things?
Super Comps, they're probably mid-8s and probably about 165, thereabouts.
No problem. See, I understand that you have some kind of famous relatives.
Yes, my uncle, he was a trapeze artist for Ringling Brothers Circus.
Wow.
He also did the trapeze work in The Greatest Show on Earth with Betty Hutton. And my aunt also was a stand-in for Betty Hutton. And uncle was also a teeterboard performer, acrobat in the circus.
So have you ever tried to do the trapeze?
No.
Come on.
No, just something safe like drag racing.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, not a problem. You've been involved in a couple movies that people may have heard.
At Universal, I worked as a grip, so I worked on the Blues Brothers movie.
Our Lady of Blessed Acceleration, don't fail me now.
Incredible Shrinking Woman. But Blues Brothers was the big movie.
Oh, yeah. Now, for people that don't know, what in the world is a grip?
A grip basically moves things around, just kind of put it here, build things, dismantle things, just kind of jack of all trades, basically.
Explain what a hot set is and what kind of experiences that is like when you're really there taping.
A hot set is when everything is configured for a certain shot, and basically it's taped off. Don't touch anything. Nothing can be moved. So basically, yeah, it has to be the way it is, and they'll have markings on the floor and tape for position. So a hot set is basically do not touch.
Are there any particular stories you can tell me about with the Blues Brothers?
The Blues Brothers was a very interesting movie.
We should be very close to the Honorable Richard J. Daley Plaza.
Actually, I was able to drive the stunt car around. We actually was on Soundstage 27. So we were driving around, with a few other friends, co-workers. Yeah, it was a tough movie to make, and a lot of situations happened on there.
Well, okay, so how do the actors get along? I mean, you've got all the staff and the crew, and then you've got the actors and the director and all that stuff. Is it like everybody's jovial, or is it a little tense, or what's the kind of the mood usually?
Dan Aykroyd was really, really great to work with. John Belushi, a little bit tougher.
Okay.
John Landis, the director, so they kind of clashed a little bit at
really?
times. Yeah.
Okay.
Things.
So they're just artistic differences.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any particular scenes that were just really a pain in the butt to get taped?
I think it was the prison scene where everybody's eating their meal in the prison. And then the Blues Brothers, of course, were playing. So that one was kind of a challenge to do, because it was, one issue was, I think the walls, the firewalls were actually too close to the wall, so they had to actually readjust the walls.
Oh, really?
Film, yeah, so that was an issue there.
Mr. Phil White, how do you want to leave your mark?
I actually would like to leave my mark on everything that I do every day, so it's always a positive result. And I hope all my previous endeavors left a positive mark on everybody. My future endeavors, I hope I can solve a major problem that will help a lot of people, but always constant improvement in anything that will help somebody and make their life better.
Want Doug to broadcast from your event, destination, or business? Follow Doug.com.
We sell shave ice and we sell happiness.
Shave ice is about summer and having a good time and being with family. It just really kind of takes us back.
The Banks family own a dessert food truck called The Daily Shave.
We really love the trailer because it's vintage, and so we wanted to kind of stay with the vintage type theme.
How did you come up with the name?
Oh, we like the mustache theme. We call them stashalities. They're stash plus specialties.
So what's the deal with the mustache?
It's kind of an icebreaker, no pun intended, but it really is.
Okay, this is not really my mustache. These guys gave it to me, okay?
We have customers come to our window. They will be greeted by Kim, and she takes their order and writes what they want on the bowl.
She likes to hand out the mustaches. From block ice. Can't be any other kind of ice. Has to be solid block ice. Once it's on the shaver, it's really about listening to the blade. Ice has to be at the right temperature. It has to sweat. You can't just pull it right out and throw it on the blade. You ruin your blade. You don't get very good quality ice. You want the soft, fluffy ice. Shave it, stack it in our bowls. We like to stack them up really high so that you're getting plenty of flavor. Send it over to Keely, and she takes care of the flavors. She really likes it when people order creamer or sweetened condensed milk, because then she gets to draw on top of it.
What's your definition of success?
We're a pretty young business, pretty young family.
Yep, thank you, enjoy.
But for me, the success has been spending more time with my family.
Where is Doug broadcasting from next? Follow Doug.com.
I admit I like treasures. Objects with stories are treasures remembered. With me today, Dr. Micah Christensen, and we're here at Anthony's Fine Art.
In the medieval times, if you were a king or a queen, you would take this cabinet part, and this is the stand part, throughout your country, and it is your laptop. It would have your seals, your legal documents, and you'd dispense justice, and you'd rule on laws with the use of your cabinet on a stand. And then over time, that became a symbol of royalty itself. Just the piece of furniture did. This is an elaborate one that was made in Burgos, Spain. So if you're from Burgos, you are automatically bourgeoisie. The exterior wood is walnut that is intricately carved with religious symbols. On the bottom, we have the faces here are the authors of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Gotcha.
And then on the top, we have a higher level of carving. You have Christ on the cross, surrounded by his disciples. And then you have the descent from the cross that would have been part of the Catholic ritual of the discussion of the Eucharist. This elaborate lock, you lift it up, and then you take these two locks off the edge, and you pull out these supports, and you lower it down, and wow, color. Here we have a man looking like a gardener standing in front of a woman who's on her knees. Now, in early translations of the Latin Vulgate Bible, when Christ was resurrected, Mary Magdalene thought he was the gardener when she saw him. So in these kinds of late medieval depictions, Christ was carrying the tools of a gardener.
This blue is a beautiful, beautiful blue. What would that be?
That is the richest pigment of all. That material is lapis lazuli.
Oh, yeah.
In Italian, they call it ultramarine, which literally means beyond the sea, because it came from Afghanistan. The green is a copper derivative.
Okay.
The white is lead, and there's outlining you see on all of the figures, and that's gold.
Wow.
This here is ivory that would have come from Africa in the 15th century by way of Portugal. So the person who owned this piece would have had the body or the case made by the best workers carving in Spanish walnut, doing Spanish ironwork in Toledo, which is another part of Spain, the plaques imported from Limoges, France, and then the ivory which was taken from Africa, brought through Portugal. This would have been almost a ritual object to the family, a kind of altar. They would have used it for everyday business. This would have probably had leather on it, and you would have stood and done your work on it. And they would have kept important relics that were either acquired by the family or that were things like strands of hair, there were locks of hair that would have been taken from deceased members of the family.
Okay, so you were saying this was made pre-Columbus.
That's right. It's likely that we're only the third owners of this piece that's over 600 years old.
What an incredible provenance. Well, you know, everyone has a story.
Objects with a story are treasures remembered.
We all need to take a deep breath now and then. Clear nasal spray helps me breathe better. I think that'll help you too. So come on, take a deep breath. You're ready, and relax. Thanks for joining us in this episode of Jessop's Journal, where we share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories every week on TV, as well as worldwide at jessopsjournal.com. Everyone has a story. Yes, you have a story. The guy right there, you know, holding the coffee cup, okay, you've got a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. With another entry into Jessop's Journal, I'm Doug Jessop.